Hello and welcome into this episode of Good Bad, Bad Good. Today we watched a movie that likes to keep you in the dark. That's it. Then film clips. that's the best intro I got.
Let's close the door.
Lucius is outside walking.
They're coming.
He's inside safe somewhere. Please close the door.
He'll come back to make sure we're safe. Why are you on this porch?
It is not safe.
There are other porches. Do you find me too much of a tomboy?
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the podcast. My name is Brian Ossip, and I am a film and video editor.
My name is Kylie Namai, and I am an actor and writer.
And I am Travis, a director and producer.
For today's episode, if you could not tell from the film clips that you would have already heard, which, let's be honest, most people are still probably not going to be able to tell from those clips, we watched the M. Night Shyamalan classic, The Village. I don't remember what year this. I don't remember what year this movie was from. It was probably like 03, 04. I should have probably looked that up, but
Oh, I think it's 04.
Thought it was 03.
Let's
We are
look
so
it
together.
up.
yeah,
The
we did a lot of research prior to this recording this episode.
I did not look at any fun fact for this film, and I feel like that is very rare for me to not look at the fun facts.
Bitches, I was correct. It's 2004.
Yeah. Some might argue there aren't any fun facts about this movie. But was that a spoiler of
The fun fact is they gave M. Night Shyamalan yet another movie. How and why? Fun fact.
Should we get the little Google synopsis, the plot synopsis of The Village?
Yay!
Hey Google, what is the plot of The Village?
Here's the synopsis of The Village. An Amish-style community lives cut off from the outside world by the woods, in which they believe dangerous creatures exist. They have an uneasy truce with the creatures. If they stay out of the woods, they are left unharmed. When one of the young villagers becomes ill, the boy who loves her ignores the elders of the village to make a bid to the next town to fetch medicine.
All right, so now that we know a little bit about the plot of the movie, shall we go around the horn and everybody can give their verdicts whether you think this is a good, bad film or a bad, good film? Kyle, let's start with you.
So I think this is a bad, good film.
I will disagree and say that it was a good, bad film.
All right. Well, clearly, Travis, you're wrong, because I would also say it's a bad, good film. So let's start breaking it down a little bit and sort of delve in a little deeper of why we feel the way.
Why you two are wrong.
Yeah. So let's start with the story or the plot. So Travis, since you're in the minority, do you want to go first and you're fighting an uphill battle here?
I think this is still M. Night Shyamalan being he's still effective in my opinion in this film. The overall let's get this out of the way. The twist in the end. Oh, shoot. Spoiler alert to everyone out there if you are listening to this 20 some years almost 20 years after the film came out.
17.
17,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I will say, spoiler alert, if you have not seen The Village yet, you probably want to watch this because we are going to spoil the hell out of it.
Yes.
Or don't, because it's not enjoyable.
I think this
You
is...
just sounded like Marge Simpson. Tell me. Sorry, go on.
I think this is the last good film from the beginning of his filmography that you should... Well, not good film, because I said it's a good, bad film. But it's his last film that at least should be watched. After
Is
this.
watchable.
Yeah. It's watchable.
It is.
Definitely. But I also think there's a lot that you could learn from this as well too. But if we're
about what not to do.
Okay, yeah. Actually, I will agree with story plot. Story and plot, it has a lot of third act problems, obviously. And I think a lot of people when you think back on this film, you think back to those third act falling apart sections and not like the rest of the film. I think he does a really good job of setting up this world, setting up these characters, setting up like the general, what's the plot device that I'm thinking of? Inciting incident. And this world of like, oh shoot, we can't go beyond these trees because like that's super effective.
Yeah.
Like that,
I mean,
just that in and of
Yeah.
itself is very effective. And I think if we focus on that being like the heart and soul of the plot, I think it allows for me personally to like overlook those third act problems to some extent. Obviously, I'm not saying that it's a good plot in and of itself, but if we were like specifically talking about the script as a whole as well, I will say that the dialogue is so bad. So bad.
So you're basically saying if you take like a third of the movie and only think about that, then it's all right. If you forget
No,
if you forget the other 2/3,
Right, because you're saying that to the first 2/3 you
Okay,
like.
I beg you to not like to just look at the first two acts. Like if you were to just stop at the end of Act 2, and if I were to ask you to like how you two are feeling about this film, you'd be like, "This is a really good film."
I'm
probably.
bored 40 minutes in. I wrote it down.
Yeah.
First one of my and I remember, so I've seen this movie twice now. Once for this podcast, the very first time was in the theater. I fell asleep, woke myself back up, fell asleep again in the theater. And these are great actors.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix, normally I'm freaking glued to the experience of Joaquin Phoenix, and he
Agreed.
was amazing in this. But no, I was bored. But however, I actually agree with what you said about the plot and the story. It's for the most part got some. It's got some. It's got some guts. It's got some heart. There's a lot there, but there are issues, especially in the third act. But that is actually why I say it's a bad good film. Meaning, I actually see what it could have been, but I didn't actually end up enjoying it. So to me, the very first part of that bad good is like, this was not enjoyable for me. However, I see all the potential.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
My first note literally that I wrote down while watching this was this cast is fire. Period, period, period. Fire. Period, period, period. Straight fuego. Because like I was watching the title cards and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there's so
many people."
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's like a lot of people that you recognize by face, even if you don't recognize their name too.
Totally. A lot of people that ended up coming in to their stardom later, like after this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Jesse Eisenberg. But yeah, so it was funny. You wrote 1,500 fire emojis or whatever, and I just wrote good cast. Just keeping it simple. But like, I mean, I agree with what you said. How he does a good job setting up this village, this little town, their own little world. But yeah, I mean, I just thought it was so slow and it was so boring, and I just like it didn't grip me, even as good as the actors are, and also like I mean I can't just take out the last third of the movie, like I understand what you're saying if you just look at like a certain part and then stop, but like you can't, like the movie doesn't stop. The movie keeps going.
Agreed. Which is why this film is even being talked on this podcast.
Right.
Because it's not like a good film.
For sure. And ultimately, like, it just feels like this, like, slow burn that doesn't really catch fire. It just kind of fizzles out at the end.
Mm-hmm.
The twist, and I say twist in quotes, because M. Night Shyamalan for me got to a point where it felt like he was trying too hard to force the twist. After you were saying earlier, like, after you come out with The Sixth Sense, which has, like, one of the best twists of all time.
Oh, 100%.
Get out of the way, Ivy. She keeps hitting my fucking mic stand.
For those of you out there who can't see this, Brian's cat is literally giving him a lap dance at the moment.
But all we
Yes,
see is
kind of.
just the tail
All we
flicking
see,
him in the face.
all we see is her booty straight up in the air at his face.
I know, and I'm trying to move her out of the way so she's not constantly hitting the microphone, but she doesn't know what a microphone is, so she won't do it. But so yeah, so like it just I kind of feel like he tried too hard after a while to like find these twists. And this twist kind of felt like one that he was like, all right, I got this whole thing. What can I do to make it twisty? Oh, let's make it set in like actual modern day America. They're just hidden in a forest park somewhere. And like it didn't really jive with me. And I remember feeling that way when I initially saw it, and it's been so long that I was like, oh, maybe, I'm not quite remembering, or maybe I'll like it better this. And then the second time I was like, nah, I was right the first time.
I think this film, we were set up to be let down because the marketing material, like I remember seeing the trailers for all this and all that. You think it's going to be like a straight terrifying horror film. And I will say the first time I saw it when it came out, I don't remember if I saw it in theaters, but I did see it like when it was new. I remember thinking that it was like an absolute terrible movie, and it wasn't scary, and it wasn't any of these things.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got older and like was able to revisit the film and be like, okay, this isn't a horror film. This is a drama. If I'm not going into this expecting to be scared, like, how can I reevaluate this film?
Agreed, which actually is why I think I enjoyed the experience more, or at least didn't fall asleep this time around than the first time, because I remember going, okay, this wasn't scary.
Yeah.
So I know that I'm not in it for that. I wrote down at the very beginning, because I was really trying to figure out, how is this movie setting me up in the first act? Because I think that's the most important part. And I think remembering that I did not enjoy the ending, I'm going, what is it that sets me up for failure later in this first half? And one of the first things that I wrote down was very ominous music. And so we're going into it, and this like ominous title cards, and right then and there I'm being set up for, there's gonna be something terrifying that's going to pop out.
I get what you're saying, though. In terms of the setup, you do think this is going towards this like horrific showdown between like the people and
these beasts.
Yeah.
I will say I loved the setting of this movie, meaning even when we get to the end and we recognize the reason this village was set up in the first place was because of all these people in the 60s who like started this sort of commune. I actually really enjoyed all of that. What I didn't like so much is our heroine and her actual plot. I didn't like the A story. I sort of more enjoyed the B story, or the background to that. And I think I especially didn't like the A story because for me it was really unbelievable that the father would send his blind daughter out into the woods by herself to do this. Like I just went at it was there that I
like why not send the other daughter and
why
her
not
husband?
send literally anybody else? I mean, I get that there was the idea that like she's gonna understand this and she'll keep this going for us one day, but there's multiple people who have to keep this secret going, so why not tell someone else? And it was just that's where I got lost.
Because he went beyond, like he went behind the back of everyone else. Like no one else knew that he was sending her.
Right. I guess that's true.
So like he couldn't tell. I agree that there's like the 20 founding parental figures, but like he couldn't tell any of them like, hey, I'm gonna send blah blah blah.
Right.
I took that as like he trusts her. He literally trusts his blind daughter more than his other daughter.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he basically even says that.
I can't even remember who the other daughter was.
Judy Greer. Father, I am in love.
Oh, right.
Well,
right,
usually
right,
there
right.
is a man standing next to you.
Right. I forgot. Yeah.
The man is unaware of your intentions?
Yeah.
I would like to segue. So I am on board for the plot, and I'm willing to overlook a lot of the stuff because I think the idea of creating this commune, kind of like what you're saying, Kai, like the idea behind it all, I hate to say original because like nothing is original, but like it was different. It's like a very different plot take and story structure that I'm like, I could get behind that.
Yeah.
You can 1,000% with all M. Night Shyamalan movies give him some credit for originality. I mean, always.
Sure.
But
what I cannot get behind when it comes to the script is actually the dialogue.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So the dialogue is so wordy.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy. I would like to share with you two. I wrote down word for word what what the father of Judy Greer and
Yeah.
Bryce Dallas Howard.
What is his name? William Hurt.
William Hurt.
He
Yeah.
says, and I quote, so this happens when he comes across the children that are looking at the first skinned animal. I think it's like within 15 minutes.
Ew, yeah. It just hit me that like all the elders were skinning these animals. Yeah. Gross.
So the kids are looking at the animal, and he walks up and he says, "What is it that you gaze your eyes upon with such splendor that I may put in my pocket to help me teach today?" And I'm just like, what? Like, that sentence makes sense, but like, why so many words? And why do you need to say this?
Also, why do you need to say it like that? Because if you're going to start a whole new commune,
Yeah.
and we're in the modern days, then your commune can look like whatever the fuck
Yeah.
you want it to look
So,
like, and you can talk however the fuck
I
you
had
want to
that thought
talk.
too.
So
Yep.
why do all the women need to wear dresses?
Well, yeah. Why are they choosing to
And
talk
hoop
like it's
skirts.
the 1800s?
The only reason is so that we are confused and have a plot
yeah,
twist later
for sure.
on. That's literally
It's
the only
100%
reason.
only for the viewer.
Yeah.
No, it's. I mean, so we basically already kind of segued into acting a little. I mean, it's that's sort of story plot / acting. But do we want to keep going with the acting? And
Yes, please, because
talk about
I
how
have
we
a
thought,
lot
'cause-
to say.
yeah, yeah. I mean, as we said, I mean, it is a really great cast. I mean, there are a lot of very big time, well known people in this movie.
Yeah.
That being said, I feel like the acting is not always
Oh, it's so uneven.
top. It's not always top notch.
It's so uneven.
And part of that, like you were just saying, like with William Hurt's character talking like, like somebody from the 17 or 1800s or whatever. I mean, part of that is obviously the story and the script and him reading the words that were on the page. I wonder how much of that is him playing the part, or how much of that is M. Night's direction of how he should play the part. Because that comes across as very over the top for somebody who's considered an excellent actor.
Totally. When I see uneven performances, especially in a big cast like this, I always think it's the director, right? Because especially when it's such good people. Like, I actually didn't really like William Hurt in this, but
Yeah.
but I think they were given material that was like hard to figure out unless you have a director going, this is exactly what it is and here's why. But if you're an actor, you need motivation behind something, right? And like we just said, the only motivation is so that the audience, as they're watching this movie, is possibly confused. But if William Hurt doesn't, as an actor, doesn't actually have motivation for the reason that he's saying these words in this dialect rather than modern day dialect, you're gonna get some uneven performances.
Yeah.
I disagree with William Hurt. I want him to be my father, especially in this film. I'm like, yes, just like talk to me about like what I need to do to become a man or something. I don't know. Like, I just wanted to be a little boy that was like, yeah.
Well, I feel like that's William Hurt in general.
True.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
100% will echo everything about the uneven acting, but I will disagree. You brought up Joaquin Phoenix, and I didn't think he was that great.
I would agree with,
And
with
I
you.
think
Yeah.
I think part of it is like it's not Joaquin, it's the script, and like how like I'm watching it and I'm like, why are these women like falling over him? He's literally not saying anything.
Oh, well, yeah, that. Well, it's because Joaquin likes to take the darkness of the role and make it meaty and go into it. So when he finds the like the gem of the like character default in the character he's playing, that's what he really sinks into. So then you either need to give him a role where it is just that, or have a script and a director that can coax the believability of the charmingness and the. I mean, how often do you see Joaquin Phoenix play like a love interest? You don't.
Yeah.
Because that's not his forte.
Yeah, for sure.
Plus, he was supposed to be in love with Bryce Dallas Howard, who just That's what I think about that. I just
I think this is her magnum opus. I think this is the best work she has
ever done. Yeah,
Which
I mean,
I don't know how you want to take that, but I think this is the best thing I've ever seen her in.
I don't know. Jurassic World. She was pretty great in Jurassic World.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because she could run in those heels.
that
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 actually
alone
is
deserves an
impressive.
Academy Award. There's the moment where like she is following, I believe it's Noah, who's Adrian Brody, following
Yeah.
him along like the
he
the
was actually
edge.
great in it.
And
See, I thought he was.
and she's like talking to Joaquin Phoenix's character. I forgot his name. And she's
Lucius.
Lucius.
Lucius,
Yeah.
yeah.
She's like,
Lucius.
Lucius, I
Yeah.
knew that you like me because you stopped, like you used to hold my hand and now you don't. So like I translate that to be like, I fell and you didn't help me up. I love you. It's like, she like the one thing that she says is like, I fell down and you didn't help me, so I know you like me. And I'm like,
Right. However, she's blind, so everything that she goes upon is touch or the non-existent
but she
touch.
could see him. There's a color that he gives off. So
Oh,
like
right.
so
Oh,
Yeah.
homegirl falls. Homegirl falls.
Right.
All pitch blackness. She only sees this one color, and then this one color is like
Doesn't do
Yeah,
anything."
nah, and then walks away. And she's like, "Ah, I love you."
Yeah, this freaking movie. There were so many things where that actual scene though that you're talking about, where Adrian Brody and the two of them are in the woods. It's like in the first 20 minutes of the movie or something.
Yeah.
It's the first scene where we see the red
Berries. Yeah, the berries.
It felt so staged.
Yeah.
That it felt like I was watching actors act, and it's really hard to say that when you're watching Joaquin Phoenix and Adrian Brody to go, oh, they're clearly acting right. Like
Bryce
I've
Dallas
never
Howard.
well, I think that with her all the time.
Yeah.
But the other two people, yeah.
Oh,
Speaking of
I
the
take that
color-
back. Sorry, go.
No, I was gonna say
Brian, you
speaking
just
of the
made
color
such a
red.
face.
What's that?
You just made the best face. It was like, are you
Yeah.
two gonna shut the fuck up so I can speak?
Well,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
For those listening, Trav and Kai are in the same room, and I'm thousands of miles away.
Like
so
1,000
sometimes,
miles away.
well, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't do math. You know, I can't Google map things. So with just real quick with the color red, it's such like an evil color in this movie. Yet, like the main heroine has red hair, and also at least Bryce Dallas Howard's a redhead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she also like kind of looked like she had red lipstick, or just maybe very red lips, that I noticed at one point, which
Right.
is kind of like you would think. And I mean, obviously, William Hurt's like the founder of this little neighborhood, but like he's not gonna like throw his own daughter out, right? But you would think that like if red is such a shunned color, wouldn't they be like kind of afraid of Bryce Dallas Howard?
They don't have hair dye back then, so they just have to live
What
with
in
it.
Yeah, but
2002
they're
or
still-
whatever it was?
But they're still manufacturing red lipstick in this commune. Because like they must be making their own lipstick, right?
Well, also though, when she's like covered in blood, or Adrian Brody is covered in blood, which is red, no one's going, strip off your clothes, throw them in the fire, whatever. You know, there's no, and that's like pure red.
Yeah, and getting back to Adrian Brody for a second here.
Yeah, I want to take back my comment, actually. When I thought about it after I said that, I went, no, I just like him as an actor, so I was giving him
Yeah.
credit, but no.
I do too. This felt like overacting. It
Yeah.
felt so like he plays a character with I mean it's more than a learning disability, right? I mean it's some sort of mental
he
disability.
has a mental handicap, yeah.
Yeah, but it just felt like he took it to like a 15 out of 10. And like some of that, obviously goes back to the writing and
Right,
the
'cause
script, but
we do have to believe that he can kill.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean that's true. That is true.
And at
but
least
it just
knows that like that will take the problem out of it. Like he likes what's her name,
He has
so
to be
he
smart
knows
enough,
that
yeah.
like he at least knows like if I get rid of this dude, that takes the problem out of the equation of like
Right.
I like her, which a whole nother thing. Homegirl is like leading him on so much, and I'm like I'm like, you're out running around in the fields, like fondling for each other, and I'm just like, I don't think this is okay. I'm like, this
Yeah,
is, of course he
I mean-
likes you. You're like spending all this time with him, and
I could
Yeah.
see how all parties involved in that instance would be a little more innocent, though, because it's not like it's not like they're waking up and turning on The Real World on MTV, right? You're like the Jersey Shore to like learn about
What
real
not
life
to do.
things. Yeah,
Real-
they're just so sheltered,
Jersey Shore.
you know.
Wait. The Jersey Shore, real life things.
Well,
Quote of the fucking episode.
I meant more like
Jersey
reality
Shore,
TV.
Real life
And
things.
it just
children
listen,
gather
there
around.
is-
You're gonna learn about real life. I'm gonna put on the Jersey
There's
Shore.
there's nothing more real life than Jim Tan laundry. Okay,
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
GTL,
Snooki is
baby.
gonna teach you.
yeah.
fist bump. Yeah, you can't see it, but fist bumping.
Oh, God.
Boots and cats and boots and cats.
I don't know. I just thought like, I mean, clearly there are emotions though. Like she likes someone else. She sees her sister go. Like I feel like in a community like that, you are like so hungry to get married, like you want that immediately. Like you want that so much earlier than people probably should, because like that's the only like form
Sure.
of intimacy that they have in that commune. Like there's no casual dating.
Right. That was just going back to love, and that Judy Greer I thought totally overacted it, and I love her.
Yes, agreed.
And-
Agreed.
Right. And but then I go, but it didn't seem, it just wasn't grounded, right? None of these performances felt like they had a gut to them, like a bottom. And that to me goes, that's direction. If all
Yeah.
of the performances feel like that, that is direction. Or that's M. Night Shyamalan whispering in Judy Greer's ear after she does one take. I think you need to be a little more bubbly.
But I think it is because they have to fit so many damn words into a breath. I legitimately think
that is
Yeah, I
true.
mean, it could
Like,
be.
Judy Greer, when she's standing there confessing her love, she's like, I love you, and if you love me, speak now, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, how is she fitting all this in one breath? So it's like all these actors have to fit like 40 words into one breath. And it's like, of course, from an acting perspective, it's like, how can I even think about my characterization? Because I gotta remember all these freaking words. And that's why you think Joaquin Phoenix was one of the best, because Homeboy doesn't say anything.
Say anything, you're actually,
there
you're
in the
actually right.
moment.
You know who's
So I blame
always
script.
Yeah, yes, blame the script. You know who is still all
Yeah.
solid, because she just always is. I think she is like one of the
Oh my gosh, don't say it.
Best.
Don't say it.
actresses who just is not as highly regarded as
Don't
she
say
should
it.
be, is Patricia Clarkson.
Okay.
Patricia Clarkson and Cherry Jones actually is always amazing too. But Patricia
I love
Clarkson-
Cherry
Agreed.
Jones.
Yes.
Agreed. I thought you were going to say Sigourney Weaver, and I'm like,
No.
oh my gosh, she was
Oh,
like
no.
a
No,
fish
no,
out of
no.
water in this
No,
movie.
no, yes, agreed.
There was
Yeah,
this one shot
agree
where
with that.
her and Lucius are talking, and like she legitimately, it's when he says like, oh, the other guy likes you or whatever. I think it's like 35 minutes into it, and she is like saying something, and then she's like, wait, so how do you know he likes me? And I'm like, oh, she wants something. Like she needs to have her field plowed.
Lady
Yeah.
parts met with excitement.
And then she like legitimately looks at the camera. Like they stop talking and she like does this side eye to the camera, but like in character, I guess she's like, and then she like just slowly goes away from the frame and is like out of frame. And I'm like, what the like from an editorial perspective?
For those of you just listening, since we are on a podcast,
Yeah.
I really wish you could see Travis's recreation of this performance at this mic right now.
if you go to
I
that
think we need
moment,
to
I'm
put
just
this
like,
on
what
YouTube.
the? But so I mean, this is more technical, but the editing I thought was pretty good for the most part, except for like that one moment. I'm like, was that like a Sigourney Weaver thing of like, I'm just gonna inch my way
Or she was like,
away
this
from
has to
this
stay in the
frame right
movie.
now? Yeah.
She's watching the dailies and she's like,
Yeah.
no, Shyamalan, this one stays.
Oh my gosh, yes, I thought she was one of the worst of the cast, Sigourney Weaver.
This
Yeah.
this kind
Love
of
her to
movie was
death.
not. It was not designed for her, really. Like
No.
she was
I
the
mean,
wrong
there's creatures
person.
to kill. What are you talking about?
I agree.
Well, that's true. Yeah. So one other thing that we were talking about before we started rolling that I want to bring up with the acting is your favorite Bryce Dallas Howard. As we have said, she is blind in this movie, yet she seems to make a lot of eye contact with people she's talking to. Which, look, I don't have that much experience around people who are blind, but I got to imagine they're not turning and making like direct eye contact with people very regularly. I could be wrong,
Right.
but it just felt off for somebody who's supposed to be blind.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience, but I did have a family relative from my stepfather's side of the family who like I don't know a whole lot, but he's like 90% blind, so he like sees probably a little bit and like sees in colors, but his eyes are sorry, when you talk to him, like constantly moving. So I'm like, I don't know if that's like a way of like trying to scan and like figure out where the person is that they're talking to. But
That would be a
yeah,
very challenging
I
thing to
don't
do
really
as an
know.
actor.
Yeah, I don't really know. See, I thought the depiction, I thought she was like 75% solid. Like for the most part, I think I even wrote down like she's pretty decent as a blind person. She also
pretty
used her
decent.
cane properly, which like when people don't use canes properly.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Because honestly, I actually thought towards the end of the movie, especially when she's in the woods, I'm with you. I'm like, okay, I get you're a blind girl. Now I'm believing you. Beginning of the movie, didn't believe it. There's also moments when she like runs into places where there's no feeling around for steps. She runs up and into the house where
Yeah.
she thinks Joaquin is in a quick second. And I'm like, I know that you're like searching for someone, but woman, you still do not have eyes to use.
But the other thing is, if her whole life has revolved around this like
community, I
half
thought
an
that too.
acre,
Yeah.
and these buildings haven't possibly changed, she might know. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
if we only lived in this apartment complex and did not leave
Right.
for 25 years,
Right. Right. Yeah.
like,
No, I got you.
I think I would know how to get to the
all the places.
yeah,
Yeah.
to the trash cans,
No, I get that. And actually,
and be able to count steps at that point. I'd be like, there's 25 steps down to the first floor.
it's funny. I just called it a community, and earlier I heard Brian call it a neighborhood, but the movie is literally called The Village.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of us use that term.
No, I called it a neighborhood on purpose. Just felt
well,
like a
I-
neighborhood. So yeah, with her with those kind of things, like yeah, I kind of took it as she just knew that community, that village, very well. So that's how she was sort of able to navigate between like the homes and the different buildings. The thing that I can't buy, you mean to tell me that she scaled this like 30-foot wall up
Thank
and
you.
down to get out of
Yes.
this? Like it was
That
essentially
she
what
would
it turns
even
out
know
is like.
how to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Like so, it's like they're built this community like deep in like a national park. Essentially, is what it is. So there's like a fence around it. She needs to crawl out or to climb up and down. Like I mean, this was pretty tall. Like it had to have been at least 30, 40 feet, right? Like I don't buy that I don't think she's ever climbed anything in her life, probably. So you're going to tell me she's going to start successfully climbing 3-story high fences?
Agreed.
Nah,
Or
fuck that.
how does she even know that it is something to be climbed? How does she even
Yeah.
know there if you don't see, how do you even know that there's not a ceiling to what you're like all of
Oh my
Maybe-
that?
gosh, we were in
maybe
a
her
dome
dad-
this whole time.
Seriously
We're in a
though, you
warehouse?
don't
Is
you
this
don't
the,
know
is this the
how
Truman Show?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
The
we're in a
Truman Show.
Costco.
I mean, basically it's the
Honestly,
Truman
that'd
Show.
be great.
Oh my gosh, we're in a national park. It's
Yeah,
gated
I mean,
in.
That part I can at least buy that maybe like off camera her dad told her you're going to come to a fence that you have to climb. Maybe.
Yeah.
You know, because like
Yeah.
he would know that. William Hurt's character would have known that. But I still don't think like you know how hard that would have been. That didn't look like it would have been easy to climb
No.
with two working eyes.
But
Let alone being
Brian, I feel
blind.
like you are forgetting about the best plot device of all, the power of love.
Yes.
If the person she loves like is dying and this like I'm half joking, half kind of serious, but I'm like, I don't know, like she knows like the clock is ticking, and if her dad did say there's like this giant fence you got to climb, she's like, oh, this is the one fence that I rammed into.
Says the hopeless romantic. Like,
True.
since I've
True.
known you, which has been several years
True.
now.
Yes.
I love that. That's going to be
I'm just
every
saying.
movie you write is going to be, oh, but love conquered it.
No, because that's one of my, oh my gosh.
That's a pet peeve.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Any Christopher Nolan fans out there, you're going to learn to hate me, but Interstellar just like drives me crazy
I
for
didn't
that reason.
watch it because that's my other unfavorite actress.
Isn't it Jessica Chastain?
No. Because
Anne
I
Hathaway?
love Jessica Chastain. Yes, Anne
You like Anne
Hathaway.
Hathaway?
No.
I'm lukewarm.
No.
All I know is that The Power of Love was a great song written by Huey Lewis and the News for the excellent film Back to the Future.
Yes, that is a
Yeah.
good movie that will never be on this podcast.
Yeah, but the third
Hell
one might.
no. Are there any other acting things? Oh, well, so I don't know. I guess maybe this would fall into technical, but it's about Joaquin Phoenix. When he first goes to talk to the elders to say that he wants to go into the village, like early on in the film, he goes in to talk to the elders, and he's carrying like a sheet of paper that he wrote his notes down. He had like 5 or 6 pages of paper, but he really only actually read like 3 sentences. So, like, what do you think was on the rest of those pages of paper?
Rebuttals? Like,
rebuttal.
I
Yeah,
mean, what
I
else is there
remember-
to do in the village other than he's like sitting? He probably sat there for like a week of like, all
Decided
right, so
all the
if they
things.
say this, I will say
Say
this.
this,
If
yeah.
they say this, I will say this.
Or he's like when like an old person who can't see very well turns the font on their phone up to like the extra large. He's just writing in really jumbo letters.
It's just doodles of like Dallas Howard's butt.
Sounds about right. So on that note, should we move on to the technical aspects of this movie?
yes.
So these
You-
are things like cinematography.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say Travis mentioned the editing earlier, and I just wanted to make note of that too. That I didn't notice the editing, which means it was good editing. Anytime I look back at a film and I'm like, that part that they and the editing there, then I'm like, oh no, if it took me out of it at all, then it was good.
Yeah. So for me, the reason I ended up coming up with the good bad verdict is partially because of the technical, and then partially like the acting I will just say is bad. But I think the acting like that has to do with the script from our first section that we talked about. So like the first section for me is like 50% medium, and then technical is like 75%. So I'm like kind of averaging, and like my overall feeling, that's why I'm like, it's a good bad film. The editing I thought was like actually really good. One of my favorite moments, and like I knew it was coming because I've seen this is probably like my 3rd time seeing this movie.
I'm
but it
sorry.
just goes to show how much I love this editorial moment. But when Judy Greer is professing her love to Joaquin Phoenix, and she's like, "Tell me what you think," and then it like cuts to just like, "Ah!" and she's like in the bed crying. I like wait for that moment. I'm like, that is such a good cut right there. Like that, whoever the editor is, I'm sorry that I did not look up your name. I just like whoever thought that up is just like, that is so perfect to not cut back to him,
Yeah.
to not cut back to like anything. It just cuts straight to her crying. And it's like, it's perfect storytelling through the edit of like, we know exactly how that conversation ended just off of like that
I mean,
one cut.
I would agree with that. I mean, I kind of felt overall, kind of like you said, Kai, like I didn't really notice it for the most part, which to me is either the sign of a good edit or, I mean, it's just sort of like fine. Like there wasn't anything special that I noticed about it either. I mean, like I agree,
Yeah.
Trev, that one moment was a good, funny, well edited moment.
But this isn't a movie for crazy visual editing.
Yeah,
It's
it
not
kinda
really
didn't really need it.
stylized.
But-
Yeah.
Christopher Tellefson, that's the editor.
Christopher
Yo, Chris.
Tellefson, if you're listening to this, I hope you are. Shout out your editing. One last thing about editing. The thing that brings, sorry, Chris, I built you up and then I'm going to bring you back down. The one thing though, when you're talking about the edit and the cuts, like to some extent, acting choices are because of the editor. Like the editors pick
Yes.
those takes.
Agreed.
I mean, for the most part, if a director is good, a director will let the editor actually do their job and not just be like
Yeah.
a keyboard engineer of like, do this one, do this one, do this one. So to some extent, some of those acting decisions, like I said with Sigourney Weaver, like the edit sculpted these acting performances. So I'm like, to some extent, the editor is to blame for that.
So one of the things that I did notice, and this was like later in the film when she's kind of wandering through the forest on her way to the fence that she's about to hop, and Adrian Brody's character is coming after her in the creature costume, whatever it is. There were some shots that kind of felt like, you know how when you're filming and then you go into post and you slow it down like a lot to the point where it almost looks like it's like starting to lose frames as opposed to shooting in the right frame rate for slow motion. It kind of
100%.
felt like in post they decided to slow some of these shots down that looked, and maybe it's just because it's like a 17-year-old movie, like it's possible that's part of it, you know, at this point, that it's kind of been up converted into HD or whatever. But it just felt like they decided in post to go and make super slow-mo shots of some of these, you know, cuts where he's coming after her in the costume, and that kind of took me out of it as well. Some of those shots just felt I don't know, it just felt off.
It's 100% the frame rate. I don't think
Yeah.
converting resolution wise would, like a reprint of the film, I don't think would mess with the frame rate like that. But I 100%
No,
agree.
I don't think so either.
Filmmakers out there, just shoot your stuff in the frame rate that you want it, or like don't do that. It's so jarring. It's so jarring if you don't shoot it at the frame rate that you're supposed to.
It felt like they decided in the edit that it would have been better off as slow-mo.
Yeah.
Like like they didn't know, they didn't decide until they'd already, you know, wrapped.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the way it felt with how off those few shots, and it wasn't that many. It was maybe 3 or 4
Mhm.
of them, but it was like I felt like they were like came pretty quickly in this one little scene, and it just did not work at all. I didn't think.
Did you notice those?
No.
Yeah,
That's interesting though. That like we noticed that and like Kai didn't. So it's like, did other people that maybe don't edit as much, like, is the regular viewer out there just like, what the hell are you talking about?
Totally.
But
or does Kai just need glasses?
that.
I notice it in any movie whenever they do that. It's just like, why? It's just so
Yeah.
jarring.
I think
Yeah.
and I wonder that too though, because I do, like, I've edited small little things, and just the tiny little things that I've learned, I now see in movies if it's done incorrectly. But that's everything, right? The better you get at acting, at painting, at any art form, the more you notice the work that's being put into it.
Those whole scenes I kind of felt in general where she's like running from. Also, why did they just call it the creature that shall not be named, or the thing that shall not be named? They couldn't have
Thank
given
you.
it, like,
I
a
forgot
name.
about that. Yes, that was one of my thoughts. I was like, what? I think there was something in the plot there that was trying to make it scarier if we don't name the thing, but it didn't. It actually took the fear away for me. And
Yeah.
also just talking, like, if we're talking about, you know, sort of what are we talking about right now? Technical aspects. I would wardrobe, costume design go into technical aspects?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So the actual creature was the not scariest thing. What's the word I'm looking for? It was like
Least intimidating thing.
least intimidating. He was like a friendly little critter in a hood that, like, I would have chased and tried to play
Isn't it
with
dumbass?
if I
Isn't
was
it like
a child.
boar? It has like a boar head, doesn't it? And like
Yeah,
horns.
but
in the
it's
front?
not terrifying by
Yeah.
any means. Like, I don't know.
You walk your dog in Griffith Park, and then you imagine that thing coming towards you. You tell me you
Yeah.
wouldn't like.
Yeah, I guess. I didn't like that it was.
They probably don't even know dinosaurs existed.
But I'm saying if we're going to the extent of putting this village in olden times where women wear hoop skirts and the actors speak in a old-timey Amishy dialect, not that the Amish speak in that dialect. I don't actually.
I was gonna say, I don't know if there are Amish people out there listening.
You
I
let
don't know
us
how
know.
you would, but let us know in the comments on our social media platforms, wherever. Let us know what dialect you use.
Right. So, but if you're going to the extent to do all of that literally is just as plot devices, then also you can go, okay, the audience today has seen all of these other scary things. And this was in 2004, but I remember thinking then in 2004 that it was not terrifying. That like, why not make a more terrifying creature? And I think part of what made it less terrifying for me was the red cape and the fact that it stood up at like a human. And I get we have to go, okay, well, of course it stands up like a human because it is actually a human. However, like, make that human get on all fours. It would be scarier, you know?
Commit,
old
it's
people.
not scary. It's. Can you imagine? You see it and it starts to chase you, and then it just like falls. But I think it's not scary because this movie is not a horror film.
Yes.
So many things
Bing,
about this,
bing, bing,
like
bing. You're right.
Staying on the technical stuff. I don't think this film was even lit like a horror film should.
Agreed.
Brian and I were talking about this before we rolled.
However,
but like
the music is ominous.
yes,
So it's confusing.
So yes, it's 100% confusing. But the film is so bright. Like even the nighttime shots. Like I was talking to Brian about it when they're like near the edge and they're like it's only the fire like oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the word. What are they called? Torches? Yeah, like the fire torches that are illuminating stuff. But then like you see the trees are like lit like up top and I'm like, where is this floodlight? Where are the lights coming from?
Torches.
And like that, I feel like that's an intentional thing.
Yes.
Yeah, this movie, I wrote down that it feels like this movie can't decide what it wants to
mood,
be.
the
Like
tone,
it couldn't quite
everything.
decide what genre it wanted to be in. Because it felt like at least 2-3 different genres throughout the movie.
Interesting. I didn't think so. I don't know. I think part of it is I bullied myself into thinking like this is not a horror film. I'm not even gonna like think of it as a horror film, and I feel like that gets me like 50% of the way there to be like, this is a good film.
Even if I had bullied myself into thinking that 2 seconds in, when that damn music starts, I would have forgotten. Because it's so, I just remember being like, ooh, like music sound scores for me are like make or break a movie. And when there's a good score that goes with the genre, because they know what the genre is of the movie, it's fantastic. This one, the score, I actually liked the score and not the movie, but the score doesn't go with this movie. You know,
I didn't even notice the score.
Oh my
It doesn't
god,
fit.
I didn't.
it's like so. It's.
I actually want to like listen to it now to see exactly.
I don't remember noticing the score much within the actual film when the actors are in scenes, but the beginning credits and everything that start you in that sets your whole tone for what you think the movie is going to be.
I was too
And
focused on the
it's-
names.
You were like, that person.
Yeah, they're
this
in
movie?
this?
Yeah.
I get what you're saying though.
Am I the only one that gets tired of M. Night Shyamalan putting himself in all of his movies?
I don't mind it. I just think he needs to realize that he's not a good actor.
Well, but that's like a lot of directors. That's like Quentin
No, he's
Tarantino
not.
does the same thing. Who was he in this?
He was
the-
when
he's
the
the park
ranger
ranger.
who finds
Oh
Bryce.
yeah, right.
Does anybody else have anything on technical, or should we see?
Yeah,
if
wait,
anybody
I'm not
has
done.
Oh, oh,
I ain't done.
My bad.
My
bad,
I will
bro.
say, so like from a directorial perspective, the compositions of the shots at times are like really good, and it makes me think like M. Night Shyamalan like knows what the hell he's doing. He just like needs help in the script stage. Like I don't know at this time he wasn't taking notes because I do feel like there are some filmmakers that get to a point that are so big that like I don't need notes. Just give me the money and I'll do it. But like the opening shots where they're like at the tables, like the long tables, I think they're shot like they're framed really well. And then another really striking moment for me was when they go down into the cellar and it's like a single light frame.
Oh yeah.
Where they're actually that's where I noticed the score. The score was like those were really like artful. They almost looked
But
like
why did the score work there? Because it was supposed to be a scary moment.
no, but the score wasn't scary there. It was like a piano like they're like together through this and they're like looking up and the light's just like on them. It almost reminded me of like a Caravaggio painting from like the whenever Caravaggio was around.
Stop using big words that I don't understand.
That's a name. Or do you not know what painting is?
No, I never heard of it. Never heard of it.
Brian lives in a white house with white walls.
I do.
Psychopath.
Hey, these walls behind me are gray. I don't know if you could see that, but they're gray. Thank you very much.
I can't. That whole section though that you were talking about of when they all hide out, right? And the creature is coming and the doors have been painted red and Walking
Sound like Christopher Walken right there. Wow.
I go Christopher Walken all the time, like by accident, on accident,
What?
by accident. What do you say? Is it by or on?
By accident.
I say by accident.
Okay.
Noted.
Anywho, yeah. Well, let me. No, now I can't even go Christopher Walken if I want to. What the hell am I saying? Oh, when they're all running, the doors are painted red. That's where I went. Yeah. Joaquin Phoenix, Lucius is like out running around forever. Like everybody else has got. What is he doing? Like what is he doing? See the editing there though was really like who didn't I can't even explain my thought because I remember watching that and going, who's going where? What is happening? This doesn't seem too terrifying. Yet they're pretending it is. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of. But I also understand not wanting to make it quicker than that because the whole rest of the movie is so slow that like if all of a sudden we have this like jarring quick cut edit thing, I don't know.
It might have
maybe
actually
that's
been
what
more
needed
effective.
to be done
Yeah,
because it would have
yeah.
been the panic moment of the movie.
But I feel as
Because it
though
would have
it's
been so
because it's
different.
not a horror film.
But we were supposed to be horrified in that moment, just because we're supposed to be going along as audience members with the main characters who are supposed to be horrified in this moment.
I was horrified by this movie.
And on that, I think we should move away from
I
that.
enjoyed watching this. I was like, there's a lot of good things here, and like I think going back to acting, like wrapping this whole thing up. I think why I enjoyed it is that I bought into, I knew where the plot was going, so like I wasn't let down by like this twist that like clearly in 2004 did not stick the landing, or 2003, whenever we said. But I also bought into like the actors, like knowing that like, oh, these are actors just acting. I didn't feel like the person, like they didn't feel grounded. So I think that's why I'm just like, oh yeah, this is just like a bunch of like professional actors playing.
Yeah, here's
Yeah.
a fluffy
fair.
little
Yeah.
thing, but except for
Except for what?
except for like it felt like fluffy acting with a very dramatic plot.
Yeah, like-
because like
Yeah.
Adrian Brody literally stabs the crap out of Joaquin Phoenix, and the blind girl has to go into the woods alone.
And
like-
Joaquin survives.
Right. But it's so
Temporarily.
it's yes, and when I say fluffy, I just mean not grounded, airy. It's like it was like heady acting, not in the gut sort of acting, which
Visceral.
is strange because a lot of these actors, I would say, are gut actors. So that's why it felt confusing, because then to watch them be visceral, sort of heady.
But was Joaquin that actor at that time? Yeah.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
What else did he do up
The
until that
very
point?
first thing I ever saw him in was Parenthood. He was about 14 years old. He's in his gut all the way. He's incredible in that movie. He did a lot of stuff as a kid. He was a child actor.
Yeah, but that doesn't count.
All right. What do you say we go through and figure out whether anybody's opinions? I have a feeling I know the answer to this question, but see if anybody's
I have a
opinions.
feeling none of us are ever going to change our opinions.
Yeah.
Well, I never would say never, even though I just said it twice.
I'm saying never.
Well, I
So,
would
yeah.
actually say though, because it's all about how you describe good, bad, or bad, good, right? So
Right.
I think that really we sort of all have similar feelings on like this movie just was not a perfect movie.
That it was not.
But I guess the thing that I'm still not going to or that I'm not going to change my mind about is the fact that I didn't really enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
However, I do see the potential. I do see the idea. I do understand why this movie, even if it didn't have M. Night Shyamalan attached to it, I'm interning for a production company right now, and I'm reading scripts every week, like a ton of them. And if I saw this script come across the desk, I would go, okay, here's one. This is really interesting. Let's pick this up. So because of that, that really makes me go, okay, this had a lot of potential. I understand why it was made. I understand why the actors that signed on to it. I understand why he got a budget for this. So then I go, okay, it was a bad, good movie. I didn't enjoy watching it, but it could have been good.
Yeah. I enjoyed watching it. It's partially feeling bad for him as well. I feel like we said, everyone expects his film to be Sixth Sense, but it's like that doesn't happen. Like there's not a lot of filmmakers out there that like get it right every single time. Yeah. Granted, this was part of his like descent, but back to Joaquin, he had already done Gladiator.
Gut movie.
Yeah, no, and he did 8mm, and he did Signs at this point. Like, okay,
Yeah, Signs. That I remember. Yeah, because I actually, most people hate that M. Night Shyamalan movie. That's like one of my favorites.
I don't hate that either. Like, I think it's a good bad movie.
Do you know the book Save the Cat?
Yeah.
He rags on that movie about how it's like the worst movie because it's got too many plot devices. And I understand his points, but I don't care. I love that movie.
I mean, yeah. I like my biggest gripe with that film.
Oh, we should do this movie because Brian is shaking his head. Hell nah.
We could do that movie. I don't dislike. I kind of feel probably similar to that movie as I do this movie, The Village. But right now, at least we can save that for another podcast. But
I just think the twist in the end is dumb. Like it's water the whole time, and like they
No, I'm not
came
a
to
huge fan
a
of that movie.
planet that's 70% water.
Yeah.
Like, that makes zero sense.
We now need to remind the audience at the beginning that we're also spoiling Signs for
also,
them.
seeing
Yeah.
the alien.
They haven't seen that movie.
You know what? The statute of limitations has run out on both of these movies at this point. If you haven't seen either of them in the last 17, 18 years, I don't have sympathy.
Yeah. I feel that way when like people like when I say what happens in like Psycho, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, spoilers! I haven't seen Psycho," and I'm like, "It came out in 1960. Like,
Yeah.
it
I'll
is now
get pissed.
60 years
63 years
later.
old."
I'll get pissed if somebody tells me what happens on last night's episode of The Masked Singer, but not if they tell me what happens in a movie from 15 years ago.
Right.
Brian,
And
do
yes,
you watch that show?
We love The Masked Singer.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, wait, Travis. Good, bad, bad, good. Do you change your mind or not?
I did not change. It's a good bad movie.
All right. Yeah. I'm not changing my mind either. I'm still going to say it's a bad, good movie. Because I didn't enjoy watching this movie. But, as we talked about, there are good moments. I thought the cinematography was good. There were some nice editing moments. The score, even if it didn't fit, the score was good. I feel like there are a lot of things that made it a well-made movie. I just didn't think it was a good movie. So I'm going to stick with bad, good.
I think the best thing you said about it overall is it didn't know what it wanted to be. And I think that holds true for me.
I'd be curious to know, like, if he intended, like, what was the director's intentions
Yeah.
versus producers?
Agree, because what you said that I thought was really good was how it was pitched to audiences
Yeah.
in such a way that when you walk into the film, you're expecting something and you see something completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably like from the mastermind behind The Sixth Sense and Signs. And it's like, oh, okay. Because they probably intentionally left out Unbreakable because that's not like a
Right.
scary-ish film.
Right. But
So,
I remember the
I
trailers,
remember the trailers
being
were all
scary,
creepy.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking this is the least scary film I've ever seen.
Well, it's because they needed people to want to go to an M. Night Shyamalan
Yeah.
movie again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not like from the masterminds of The Sixth Sense comes a meditative
Yeah.
drama on.
Right.
Yeah, so make sure to give the podcast a follow. It is at Good Bad Bad Good on Instagram and Twitter. If you are so inclined, if you enjoyed my sultry voice and my deep, funny musings, I am at Bossip on Instagram. And Twitter, I'm at Brian Ossip, I think.
I think you're going to have to spell Bossip.
Oh, Bossip. It's like gossip, but you replace the G with a B.
Excelente. If you wanna follow me and my sassy self, I say that deadpan. If you want to follow me and my sassy self, you can follow me on Instagram at KailenaMai, which is Kailena Mai.
And if you want to yell at me at being completely wrong about the movie that we're talking about, you can find me on all social media platforms at Travis_Orozco. That's OROZCO.
Cool, yeah. So thanks for tuning in to another episode of Good Bad Bad Good. And hope you come check us out next time.
Bye.
Good Bad Bad Good is an Ex Nihilo production. Original theme music and sound engineering done by Jen Star Hacker. Find her at hackersoundmusic.com. Opinions expressed are solely that of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views of any entity they represent.